Hey guys, welcome back to Paracord Planet. Today we're making a Paracord Cobra snake. Now this isn't what you think, it's not a Cobra bracelet, we're making an actual Cobra snake here. We got this idea from a kids crafting blog called Frugal Fun for Boys and Girls. We'll link to that down in the description, but we're putting our own twist on this project today. And it does indeed use the Cobra. Let's dive in. This project uses 20 feet of paracord. I've got 10 feet in 2 different colors, just to give it some contrast, and then a pair of googly eyes. It'll also help a lot if you have a Type 3 FID and also a jig, but neither of those tools are absolutely necessary. So we'll set the googly eyes aside for now and start with our paracord. We want to find one end of each of these cords. We don't need to melt these together, we're just going to tie a knot in the end to keep them together. And then I'm going to hook that around the bottom peg on our jig. And then we'll bring our cords up to the other end, where I've got my jig set up for a 16-inch length. You'll see 13.5 here, but because we're using the pegs instead of a buckle that sits at the edge of the wood, our measurements on the jig are just a little bit off. So to start this out, I'm going to tie one cord around the other one, just to anchor them together and give our snake tail a little bit of a point. So here you can see I've just got one cord tied around the other with a simple overhand knot. So we'll hook that around our top peg and make sure both cords are tight before beginning our weave. I'm going to start with my tan cord on this side, and we're just going to do a half hitch starting underneath. So take that cord, bring it underneath, and then bring your end down through that loop that you've made. This is the most basic of macrame knots. We'll be doing alternating between that and the Cobra weave. So we've got our first knot, pull that nice and tight. We'll do our second one with our other cord. And we started going underneath for the other one, but this one we're going to go over the top. So over, bring it around and up through that loop. And tighten that down as well. Should look about like this. And now we're going to do 1/2 of the Cobra knot or square knot. You'll notice that this cord, it last went over the top of our core. Should be able to see it right there. So we're going to go back over the same way. Bring it over the top. And then you guys know this part. Bring it over the top, and then the left cord is going to go over that one, but then down and around and up through. You guys should recognize this knot. Tighten that down. And now we're not going to do the reverse knot of that to complete our square knot. We're going to go back to our half hitches, and doing this is going to give us a nice diagonal stripe pattern. So the first half hitch, again, is from our right side. It's a different color now, but we're starting with that right side. We'll go underneath, and then bring our extra cord down through that loop. Pull that tight. And now our left cord, this one went over the top last, you can see. So we're going over the top of this one. And around and through. And now we're gonna again do half of that Cobra knot. Again, our color's changed, but it's on that right side again. Bring it over the top. The left cord over that one, down and around, and up through. At this point, we've done our pattern twice, so we're just going to keep on going with that until we get most of the way through our snake. Okay, so I've done enough of this weave here, and you can kind of see the diagonal stripes, but sometimes if you're looking too close, they'll get lost because you do have a opposite colored stripe going through the middle of each one. And so if you're wondering where your stripes are, I actually like the other side better. So if you flip it over, you can see more solid stripes. So I'm going to have that as the top of my snake, but you can do whatever you want that way. One thing to watch out for as you're weaving is the side should look like a cobra weave. So you've got those linked together loops on each side. And if you start having a twist in it where your weave just kind of naturally wants to do this, then you might want to go back and reweave those couple of knots. So now moving into our next weave, we're going to be doing a trilobite for a couple of inches for the hood of that snake. And that's a little bit difficult to do because we've got 2 core strands here and a trilobite requires 4 strands. So what I worked up to do is to take one of your cords, preferably your longest at this point, and loop it underneath and then back up to the top. You got one big loop with our tan cord here, and suddenly we have our 4 strands there. So to make that look good in the final product, we want to do some anchoring that in place before we move on. So I'm going to take my tan cord here and make that loop. Loop it underneath down here, and then come back up to the top and back over to that left side. So right now we just have this free floating loop, and to anchor that in place, I'm going to loosen our last knot. So push that through a little ways, and we should have this loop in our other color. And we're going to pull this cord back over to this side and go down through that little loop we made. Got our frayed ends here. Make sure all of our twists are out of that cord. And then we can go ahead and pull that last knot tight again. You want about a 3-inch long loop, and then we'll begin our trilobite. So on the left side, we'll start by going over our first cord, underneath those 2 middle ones, and over our last one. So that shouldn't require you to weave it through hardly at all. We're just going to be going over our loop, but underneath the core strands, like that. So with this cord, we want to do the opposite. So we're going to be going under, and then over the top, and down underneath that other side of the loop. So we've got this X pattern before we tighten it down. If you want to know how to do the trilobite, if you've never done that before, we do have a video on how to make a trilobite bracelet. So you'll use the same concepts here. We'll bring that to the top and tighten it down. And make sure that this loop stays positioned down here. Let's do that again. So we'll take that right side cord and bring it back over the top of that loop, underneath the core, and over that other side. Then with this one, we're going underneath to come up right here, crossing diagonally over before we go down underneath that last center strand. So we'll shove those up to the top again and tighten them down. Just make sure that they're nice and tight before moving on, but you do want it to lay flat. So like that, and we'll keep on filling up the rest of those 3 inches. So when you get to the end of the trilobite, that's where our fid comes in, is handy. So we can bring this cord over that loop one more time. And then for our tan cord, we want to go up here, so our fid will help us get it through, and then down right through here. And that just about fills up our loop. So now, transitioning into that cobra weave, we're going to take that light colored cord and bring it over the top. I've found that that looks better once we flip it. And then before we bring that right side cord down, we're going to take this cord and poke it one more time through our loop. We'll go down through there. And we've got some twists. And now we'll take this cord and go down over the top of that and up through here. So that once we tighten it down, looks like that. So now taking that right side cord over the top the other one down and around. The mirror image of that last knot. That completes our cobra knot. And then from the top, looks like that. So we'll do one more back and forth of that. Tan over the top, our camo down and around, and the inverse. And that's the end of our weaving. Now it's just to add on some little extras. So we'll take it off of the jig. On this top side, you'll probably have to pull that pin out since it's such a small hole there. We'll set that aside. So now that our snake is off of the jig, all that we have to do is clip our ends and add some extras. At this point, it depends what look you're going for. If you want it to look more fun and playful, we've got our googly eyes, and I've actually got some coreless red paracord that we can add in as a tongue. But if you want it to be a little bit more subtle, you can just clip the ends where they are, and that'll be the end of your snake. But to add that tongue, we want to do that before we clip the ends. So we'll turn it back over to the bottom side and loosen those last two knots so that the last two stripes of tan are loose. Then we'll take that red coreless and just melt a fresh end on it. So we've got a little bit of a catch there. And then we'll tuck it underneath those two stripes. Like that. And now we can go ahead and tighten those last two knots again. Tighten that first one. And that should anchor that in place, so it's not going to pull out. And this next one, tighten it down most of the way. And then just so that we end this tan cord on the bottom side, so we're looking at the bottom side right now, I'm just going to loop that once through like this. So now we can pull that last knot tight. And now take the slack out of this loop. So that way when you're looking at it from the top, both of those ends are going to be hidden on the bottom side. So first I'd like to clip our center cords now. I'm going to cut those pretty close. And then keep that tongue out of the way so that we don't melt that too. And we're just going to melt these two ends into some nostrils for the snake. There we go. And then to end our colors, just make sure those are pulled nice and tight again. And then clip those pretty close as well. Just want to make sure those are flattened against well so that they aren't going to slip out. Then we're almost done. Got our tongue in there. I'm just going to clip a forked end into it. There we go. And our googly eyes. I would definitely recommend using some super glue on these. They'll stick on their own, but especially if this is being played with, they're going to fall off pretty fast. There we have a pretty nice looking cobra. So this is definitely more of a kid's project, as it was taken from a kid's crafting blog and has googly eyes and a tongue sticking out. But if you wanted this to serve a different purpose, it would also make a good centerpiece for our snakeskin hat band. We've got this tutorial on our channel. We'll link that in the description and the end screen as well. But somebody mentioned that a cobra head would look pretty cool right there, and I have to agree. So if anybody tries that, be sure to tag Paracord Planet in your post. As paracord is such a versatile crafting medium, it's fun to change it up occasionally and do things other than a paracord bracelet. So I definitely had fun with this project, and I want to know what you guys thought. Definitely let us know in the comments if we should do more projects like this in the future. As always, we'll put links in the description to where you can find the materials for this project. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.